But where should it indicate yung note?
I think yung...
Yung dalawang yan. Ramin mo na lang to
This is a very special episode of Lyric YouTube channel because today we have three guitar players who will talk about our new brand, Marshall. And today we have Louis Isok, Marc Abaya, and the new guy, Francis Reyes on guitars. For our first question, of course, we're talking about Marshall, one of the oldest brands in the musical instrument industry. How did you get to know Marshall?
I think anyone from any generation, at least from the 60s onwards, right? We see pictures of rock stars and then, I mean, maski hindi ka musician, when you see this, you know what it is, right?
Yeah.
So, ako when I was first discovering rock music, kasi hahanapin mo yung ganyan, you look for pictures. And then, my very first, the guy that made me really want to play guitar, Ritchie Blackmore, right?
Hey.
So you see, I would see pictures of Blackmore with a Strat and a Marshall. Tapos eventually, yung other heroes like Gary Moore, obviously Van Halen. I saw Brian May with little amps. The picture looked weird to me. Parang, we see a Marshall, yung parang, that's it. That's the amp, right? So syempre, childhood fantasy, I want to have a Marshall, whatever. Yun.
Yeah. Just like Kiko, so I grew up, si Daddy kasi yun, classic rocker siya, so Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin. And then yun, I remember we would drive all the way to Clark to find where sa US bases where they would dump the cassette tapes or the records. So hinahunting namin, and so I knew the sound, like Purple Haze, the first time I heard that song, I thought that was metal.
Yeah.
Right.
The heaviest thing I had ever heard my entire life. And then, nung nakakuha na kami ng mga video, napanood ko yun sa Live at the Rainbow Bridge. He's using this half-stack Marshall. So I'm like, okay, so that's an amp. That's his amp. And then later on, yun nga, as I grew older, in the 90s, nagka-Guns N' Roses na, naging uso na. And then, Slash was using a Marshall.
Yeah.
With a different guitar, but it's still a Marshall. Yes. And then I tried to figure it out, how to use it, and the only sound that I liked that would come from it was to scoop it.
Yeah.
Right.
Meaning
Yeah.
full low, full high, less mid, and it felt wonderful playing it. And then at the time, then their new metal started coming in. That's the sound. But then I realized that, well, since I didn't have money so I had to force myself to use that. And then later on, I was able to save up. I got the JCM 900, half stack.
I remember that.
That one. But I hated her so much because it was so clean. The tones were all there. I couldn't do the scope thing. And what is this bright?
Yeah.
And then it was, because at the time when I grew up, it was all about gain.
Yeah.
Gain equals volume, equals heavy, equals, that's the sound. But as I grew older and realized that pag umiinit pala yung detubo, gumaganda yung tunog. Diba? I mean,
Stupid you were.
exactly. That what the Marshall always had was, yun nga, you lessen the gain, you can pump up the volume.
Yeah.
All the frequencies were there. Now, what I feel, what I want to say in the guitar through sound, I'm sure now that whoever's listening can hear.
Actually, I'm amazed because the stories that we have are similar. In my formative years, kasi as a musician, the top of mind for amplifiers has always been Marshall. So, same because, ironically, the heroes that we look up to, like Van Halen, Slash, who else?
Francis Reyes.
Tuloy, kasi kahit sa kultura ng event scene natin dito, it's always Marshall. So,
Yeah.
top of mind siya, not only with players, but for events mismo. Yeah. So, aside from that, when I got to experience the amp itself, no more words, just straight inspiration. So that's what Marshall stands for me. Kasi across the generations, the heritage of excellence is maintained.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what it is.
Yep.
Describe your first Marshall experience. The first time you used it at gigs or maybe at the bedroom. I don't know.
Okay.
Yung first-hand matagalang experience with the Marshall was far off. Tapos nung lumabas yung mga valve state, I hated them. Paano kasi, I was used to the clean sound there, right? Because, you know, you use effects. Tapos since may breakup na, bigla na lang yung delay, bigla na lang, wait, I can't control the delay anymore dahil syempre distorted na rin yung repeats and it's not gonna work, it's not gonna work. Tapos, as in, I really tried. Turned it up, okay. Because with the old Marshalls, and even during the 90s, if you crank a Marshall, that's how you get the tone, right? Nabuti na lang with these newer ones, yung clean sa to, as in super clean talaga, na if you have a pedal board in front of it, it's gonna work. And also, dahil nasanay ako during that time with those clean amps, especially the twin reverbs and yung mga jazz chorus.
I guess going back to the Marshall, yung signature tone kasi ng Marshall is its crunch. The refreshed version of the Plexi, which is the Origin 50, it retains that, what do you call that? That gold standard for tone.
Right.
Kasi, yun nga, in my formative years, yung first maganda kong Marshall, sorry to say, but was a valve state V65R.
Yeah.
And I'm a plug-and-play guy, meaning wire lang, so the overdrive of that, pero going back to that crank tone, nothing beats the original circuitry talaga ng Marshall na talagang you're gonna nick everything, meaning nasa 10 lahat. Diba? So, ikaw ba, Mark? Paano ba? How does Marshall, how did it influence you?
Ako naman, yun, tulad na sinabi ko kanina, I hated her. Again, beautiful half-stack JCM 900 from another store. So, sanay ako sa PV, sanay ako sa plug-and-play. Kasi yung metal sound, again, scoop, pull, and then all the gates on, that's it, jug. And then the Marshall came. That's when I started getting into effects. I need effects so that I can sculpt it to my sound, and then basically I'm just using the speaker. It changed my perspective of the Marshall. So there's a way to talk to it, because if you talk to it right, it will kiss you and make you feel things you never felt before. And so that was mid-90s. So by the time Sandwich was going on there, I was using the Marshall na. And then I knew now what it is.
Just to add to that, parang it's a testament kasi iba-iba tayong styles. Marshall can accommodate all styles of music.
All.
And nakita ko yan, talagang yung evidence yan through the gigs na nakikita niyo yung mga big gigs. All of the gigs kasi hindi naman one style of music lang, diba?
Yeah.
So minsan yung JCM 900, it can go to blues, to metal, to ska, to rock, and reggae. So that's another testament to the greatness of Marshall.
As far as the Marshalls that you are using, what are your favorites or the ones you often use?
Na Marshalls?
The Marshalls, yeah.
Ngayon, I'm leaning into the JVM. It's
the new ones,
it's siguro the same DNA ng mga JCMs, but in a new way, with new channels and more features. Yeah. So, pair that up with a 2x12 na Marshall or 4x12. That's...
I have the older brother of this. Has the same
silver,
the silver one.
yeah,
Sakto.
yeah.
Same features, same voicings. Like, because I live in a condo now, so I don't have that much space. And then as we talked about the neighbors, but this size, this model, it's perfect. And then not to mention, yun nga, nagulat ako that it has the built-in effects, which are very interesting.
Yeah.
From the kinds of reverbs, the two kinds of reverbs, and then you got the chorus, the phaser, the flanger, the delay, and the octaver, which I played the out of. That one's there, it's a monster. So there, that's my favorite. That one and the PRS Tremonti.
Well, ako, I have Marshall emulator pedals. I just bought, dahil nakasale dito sa Lyric Horseshoe.
Oh, you also? Broken.
But I bought the last one, yung Character Series British, which is a Marshall emulator. Yan yung leads. Whatever. Anyway,
I see, okay.
But at home, I do have, I have a humble MG10. Same as yours, hindi gold.
Without the
yung,
effects.
Yung silver.
Yeah, the silver
Yeah.
thing.
Yung feel talaga it feels like your guitar is part of the circuit. Eh. I mean,
blended.
It's yung alam mo yung you just sit down and you start playing na you don't go even with my pedal board. Syempre, you look for
Tweak.
the right you tweak the soundscapes or whatever. Pero yung you feel like maski gumanon ka lang, yeah, it's parang dikit na dikit.
Ikaw yun. It's
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, not like, sa amp pa lang, I have to look for may kulang, ganyan. It sometimes makes it feel like the guitar is easier to play than it actually is.
True, gets.
Yung
It's
pag
actually,
unplug-
dapat matry ng listeners natin. Pero
Yeah.
I understand what you're trying to
Diba?
say.
Like, if it's unplugged or through most other amps, let's say the guitar is set up a certain way, tas medyo nilalabanan ka, and you accept it, right? Na, yeah, okay. This is how it is, and that's how it is. Then you plug into a Marshall, and say, bakit? Hindi ko naman binago yung setup. Bakit parang lumambot yung strings, right?
Yeah. Okay,
And then,
okay.
you don't think about anything else anymore, and you
Yeah.
just start
Playing.
and
Talking.
bigla na lang
Yeah.
ideas papasok dyan, and then
I get it.
parang ganyan. People before would message me and go, what effects should I get? Ganyan. And sagot ko lagi is, wait, do you have an amp?
Yeah.
Because you want distortion, you get a distortion pedal, but do you have an amp?
Yeah.
Because you could get the greatest boutique overdrive in the
But
world, but
Wala.
if your amp is
It's
crap,
there.
or every gig aasa ka dun sa amp ng venue, which will not always be in good condition.
That's true.
No, always.
Not always.
So yung recommendation ko for everyone, even me, I didn't have an amp for years.
Yeah.
Bili ako ng effects and wonder, how come my tone isn't consistent? Of course it's not consistent. Because I was playing through different...
Amps.
One, you have to consider the acoustic environment,
Yeah.
right? So ang daming factors. So minimize, make your setup consistent. And it starts with, never mind the effects, saka na yan, get a good amp.
Yeah.
That's where it starts. And that's where it should start. So, kung magtatanong pa rin kayo anong effects yung bibili nyo, isipin nyo muna, get an amp, buy an amp. Pag-iipunan mo yung effects, nakaipon ka na rin naman, bumili ka na muna ng amp,
No Marshall amp.
na Marshall.
Oh, correct. And I want to add to that, like Isok mentioned, like through the stories that we've been sharing, from different generations, all guitar players, all listen to the same kind of music, kahit paano. He mentioned a legacy of excellence.
Yeah.
And it's the truth. I mean, again, maybe someone can argue, oh, but it's too expensive. I can get it through this, I can get it through that. But I just like to share my humble opinion is if you're serious about it, once you know that, okay, this is the path and I'm gonna commit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you need the right guitar,
Yeah.
and it's just basic. The right guitar, the right amp, you're set.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna invest in it, get that top of the line if you can, and that's why I think these models are here. They're more accessible now.
Yeah.
And again, work hard for it. Save that money, because as opposed to bili ka ng bili, you sound like. I mean, you can be creative. I don't mean to disrespect it to those who can do it, who can be that creative sculptor of I'll get a piece of amp and a piece of guitar and make it sound wonderful. That's fine. But if you can, that's what I think this store offers.
Yeah.
This legacy of excellence.
Yeah.
In a more affordable
Yeah.
thing. And I know that sounds so cheesy and hard sell, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
The stories we've been sharing is the same. All of our guitar heroes that we all agree on, that we all looked up to, use Marshall to this day.
Yeah.
From whatever from the most pop music, and I just have to plug this in, to Slayer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To Slayer. So, diba, if you're gonna invest, work hard for it, save it, and then just buy the right gear, you will go a long way without buying anything else.
It's true.
Agree.
If you
As a
want to
matter of
invest
fact,
wisely, our listeners want to invest wisely, I guess you gotta invest not only your money, but invest in your time.
Yeah.
Try to visit the lyric stores you have and try the marshals yourselves, because
Yeah.
we can emulate the words that we want you to understand, pero nothing beats
Feeling it
personal
yourself.
experiences.
Yeah,
So
personal. Yeah.
drop by any lyric store, you can check out the internet for it. So by all means, ikaw ba, Sir Kiko, do you have anything to add to it?
Well, I would like to have that.
This one, true. Origin 50.
Yeah.